So clearly, Feyerabend is, pretty concerned with how science is presented and interacted with, and the role it plays in society, how it's conveyed to students and to the broader public. Um, I'd say I do agree with his premise for the most part, but I would say that I disagree with a lot of the conclusions that he draws and kind of the approach that he ends up taking. I think he argues, obviously, for science to be viewed and presented in a different way, but I don't know how much concrete steps he gives towards accomplishing that. So I don't know how much um, he's trying to accomplish with this piece outside of just presenting his view of what, how it would work in a perfect world. Um, and I guess critiquing the current way things work. I personally am of the opinion that kind of what would address this most is much better public education in the United States. That's kind of the stance I take. I think that it's really lacking, and I think that that leads to a lot of people not being able to interpret scientific information, interact with it, kind of logically, reasonably understand what certain things mean, and how to differentiate good research from, you know, uh, unfounded stuff. Um, so I guess I just would take a slightly different approach from him. Um, I, you know, I do think that there is a lack of understanding of the scientific process in the public, obviously, but yeah, again, I just believe that he gives sort of, I don't want to say wishy-washy, but some kind of vague ideas for that, in terms of what steps he would take to actually solve that issue. In terms of what's good about current public science presentations, I mean, I do think that presenters do an effective job for the most part. I want to say that most scientific presentations I've seen have been interesting and well presented, and I think that there's a reasonably high standard for that kind of thing. I don't really think that higher academia in the US and the scientific community is lacking. I think that that's pretty up to par. I just would say again that the public is sort of under-equipped to uh, to interpret and process and kind of deal with the findings that might come from the scientific community in the US. I mean, in terms of what should be changed, yes, I do think that sometimes the way information is presented could be altered to make it more understandable. But again, I just feel like a better solution would be to have a more educated public and to make it easier to understand more complex ideas that might be difficult. Honestly, there's some scientific concepts where there's not really going to be an easy way to explain it to somebody with little ability to analyze the information that's given to them. It's not always easy to boil everything down to, an easy little tidbit or factoid to explain everything. So yeah, overall, I would say that I do agree with some of his critique, but I just, yeah, I believe in a different approach in terms of solving it. And I think that it would be more beneficial in general for everyone to have a public that's more equipped to interact with the kind of ways that scientific information is presented now, as opposed to changing necessarily the way that it's presented too much. Although I do think that there's valid arguments for both.